Hello. Yeah, this is nothing different really. It's just a vinyl finds and things I've been listening to update. But yeah, I thought I'd show you this picture that I've been working on recently. As yeah, basically I've spent quite a bit of time on this weekend, and whenever I'm painting, I'm generally just listening to constant flow of different records that I'm working my way through. So yeah, most of these records that I'm going to show you have been soundtracking my weekend, trying to get this painting right. And yeah, it's only the second time I've done this design, or a version of this design, and overall I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, nothing's ever perfect, is it? And I've started using a different paint to prime the board, and I made a bit of a mistake with that, to be honest, on this one. But that's a lesson learnt, so I won't do that again. And all these things are valuable. The thing that I need to work on is the central element of the design within the centre part of the concentric squares. That is just a bit of a mess. But it's a minor detail. I mean, overall, I think the design works. So, yeah, I just thought I'd show you that. And then, yeah, just back to normal with these records, really. And, yeah, there's a bit of a mixture of stuff. There's quite a lot of things that are from Sticky Black Tarmac. Stuff that I'm still working through that I got in the sale, 2 for 20 quid. Yeah, but this first one's Pixies, and I picked this up last week, actually. I ended up in Stoke, and I had some time to kill because I couldn't get into the site I was supposed to be working at. Yeah, so I ended up in a record shop called Cannonball Records in Longton. I've not been in there before. Nice shop, loads of cheap stuff on the floor. Things that were priced. He sold all sorts, and comics and memorabilia and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, anyway, I think this was in the reject pile that he must have just been working through. It's a little bit tatty. The record's got a few marks, but it's Pixies. It's like a loud, raucous at times rock record. So honestly, with records like that, you can get away with a few marks, can't you? So this for a quid is a steal. I mean, I like Pixies. I'm not a super fan or anything. I saw them at a festival in 2006, and I wasn't really that familiar with them then, and they blew me away. Saw them again last year at the Peace Hall, and it wasn't quite the same experience, really. I mean, it definitely had its moments. Here Comes Your Man is the lead track. That's the single from Doolittle. This is from '89. It's more of an EP, really, because there's 4 tracks on it. And this track here, Into the White, is also really good. And that's a non-album track that's probably on loads of comps, to be honest. But yeah, I'll put that on the playlist as well, because that's really good. That's got Kim Deal on vocals. And yeah, this was from the same shop. Again, it was in the cheap bins. It's not a record anyone's interested in, hence it was on the floor. So it's Al Gray, Jimmy Forrest. Looks like Al Gray's actually signed it. They're 2 veteran jazz musicians going back to the 50s, and then they recorded this in 1980. So there's the 2 of them, trombone, tenor sax. You've also got organ, guitar, drums. Yeah, and it's a funky jazz album from 1980, and yeah, it's pretty good. This first track, Out There, which is a Jimmy Forrest composition, probably my favourite. So yeah, this is a keeper. It's on their own label, actually, Grey Forest. And then, yeah, this was a Discogs purchase. I forget now why I was looking into this record, but yeah, I was looking at Scientist rids the world of the evil curse of the vampires, which is a classic dub album from '81, and I forget now why I ended up looking into it, but I was looking at other pressings of it. Like the original's pretty expensive, and like the Discogs median's 60 quid or something, and that's out of reach. So I was looking, and there's a few other pressings from the 90s, this being one of them. This is from 91, I think. I mean, obviously it's just got that generic sleeve with a sticker, but there's hardly any of them out there, and there's like, 10 or 15 times as many people with it in their want list as actually have got it. And so I was thinking maybe this is significantly undervalued. Anyway, someone had listed this recently at the top end of the Discogs value, but 20 quid, saying it's VG plus, closer to excellent. And I'm thinking maybe that's actually a steal. So I've jumped on it, and I'm delighted because when I've looked into it, all the 90s pressings, and they're all pretty scarce, they all use the original stampers, so it's just the same pressing as the original 81 pressing, and it sounds great for 20 quid for what is a near mint record, really. Yeah, the sleeve's nothing, but yeah, that doesn't matter, does it? So it's on this later green sleeve, so yeah, delighted with that. So this album is amazing. When I was in Sticky Black Tarmac, I think he's done this a few times where he's just more interested in playing things that he thinks I'm gonna like, or people in general, I guess. And sometimes they're things that he's only got one copy left, which is his, because he's sold out. And this was one of those, an example of that, really, where he said, "Oh, I think you'll like this, but I can't get any more in stock," and he was totally right. So I had to track a copy down. So the artist is Lorne, and the album title's Attic. They're a duo from London. This was released late last year, November last year, and yeah, seemingly you can't find it in the UK anymore. Someone's even put a comment on Discogs saying as much. I think there's a couple of copies on Amazon, but they're, charging like 35 quid now for something that should have been 25. It's probably worth that. The Bandcamp write-up sort of says the sound draws upon a myriad of influences with dub, electronics, hip-hop, psych, jazz, post-punk and Afrobeat. I don't know if I'm getting all those things necessarily, but I mean, for me, it's just a pretty groovy kind of organic electronic album that's sort of really danceable, I guess. It's just the sort of thing that I'm into, and it's great start to finish. So I mean, if you stumble into a copy of this, I'd say grab it. And then these are all things that I got from Sticky Black Tarmac. So these were all in the 2 for 20 sale. And this first one is Barrio Lindo. This album was out 2022. He's Argentinian. Says he's a well-known South American downtempo producer. But I think this was a little bit of a departure because I think he got a group of friends together and they just had a bit of a recording session in the studio. So there was a few more sort of acoustic instruments involved, and he's, making beats alongside that. And this was the result, really. So, I mean, it is gentle, it is down tempo, but it's got its moments. Migrant, I think, is the highlight for me, which I've put on the playlist. So yeah, I'm pleased to have this. It's a nice sleeve as well. So yeah, pleased with that. And then there's a few sort of library reissues and sort of library inspired, sort of contemporary interpretations of that sort of genre really, and this being one of them, La Bibliothèque de la Bergerie. I think this was out in 23. Yeah, and it's a French sort of collective who've recorded a modern day instrumental library inspired LP, and yeah, it's good. And yeah, there's a few highlights on it. Terminus Tel Aviv probably being my favourite. Yeah, similar with this really. Now this is part of the Madlib Invasion music library series, which I wasn't familiar with, but seemingly there was a bit of a thing going on during lockdown, and a load of people associated with Madlib had some recording sessions, and I think there's 12 of these in total, and they're all inspired by vintage library recordings, I think, and they were all released in 2023. One per month, I think. So this is the only one that I've listened to. J.J. Whitefield, Poets of Rhythm, being the only artist there that I'm familiar with. But yeah, I mean, it says it takes on Ethiopian jazz and psychedelic funk. So yeah, that got me interested. There's two more actually that I picked up, which I haven't listened to yet. So yeah, this is number 8, Shades of Mauve, and Shadowboxing, number 7. So what does this one say? Psychedelic jazz, experimental soul, and cosmic fusion. Fusing modern and vintage approaches, drawing a line between Dilla and Axelrod. So yeah, I mean, hopefully those two will be as good as that one, because yeah, that's this has got some good stuff on it. Yeah, this is a library reissue actually. This got from Todmorden some time ago. Disco music. So this is a really scarce library LP from 1980. This is the first time it's had a repress. It's this artist, Silvano Cimenti. He's actually, I showed this recently. This is a comp of Italian library music. He's actually got a couple of credits on here. So yeah, I mean, there's just a handful of originals on Discogs, and it's serious money, like 300 quid plus, I think. So to have any reissue that sounds decent enough is probably a result. And this does sound all right, but it's not perfect. And the background crackle that you can there is some background on the YouTube recording, and I think it's possibly just in the audio of this pressing rather than it just being, you know, like some sort of background noise in the pressing, which is the only downside really. But yeah, I mean, it just sort of illustrates the point. Someone was reckoning, like, left a comment, sort of basically saying, I'm paraphrasing, but like, you know, what you're doing, buying all this rubbish that's for the bin, because I was talking about picking up things with condition issues. But look, honestly, this Pixies record for £1 that's a bit trashed, it sounds better than this new pressing here. So, you know, if you make a informed judgment on what's worth picking up and what's worth taking a risk on, then you can get some good stuff, can't you? I mean, like, I'm not going to buy a classical LP with a massive scratch down it, or a folk record that's covered in hairlines. But when it's things like this is worth taking a chance. And sometimes new pressings don't sound that great anyway. So this is why people like me love digging through the reject stuff. Yeah, this was from the shop in Longton. Not a record I was familiar with. This is a soundtrack from '73. This is not an original. This is a scarce record. I think the original pressing's like another 100 quidder. Yeah, Karl-Heinz Schaefer, maybe is how you pronounce his surname. Yeah, he was German born and then spent most of his life in France. So yeah, composer and worked on some soundtracks. And yeah, this was just priced sensibly. It was 15 quid. I looked into it. I thought, this sounds like the sort of thing that I might be into. And it absolutely is. This first track on side B, Couleur, is the one that I've put on the playlist, which is maybe a little bit different to some of the others, but that's got female vocal. Yeah, and it's a nice song, and it sort of nicely leads on to the others anyway. Which is this that I got from Sticky Black Tarmac. So I was well pleased to see this there in the 10 quid sale, because this is Free Love, and I'm familiar with them, even though I've not actually listened to any of their records, because they're a duo from Glasgow. I think they've probably been a bit occupied with other things recently, because this was their last release from 2023, and I was more familiar with them when they went under a different name, which was Happy Meals, and I love that band, if you want to call them a band, duo. I mean, they are a couple as well, so they've got a lot going on at the moment, I guess. But yeah, she does vocals and some keyboards and things like that. He's basically behind all the synths and electronics and just making some sort of banging tunes, really, sort of acid inspired, yeah, tunes that she sings over the top. And even though they're from Glasgow, she sings in French on some of these tracks. So there's two on here that are in French, and the lead track, Le Mirage, is probably my favourite, which is ace. So, I mean, if that sounds like the sort of thing you might be into, I'd check it out. Yeah, so I went back to this release, which is an EP rather than an LP. There's 6 tracks on here. The standout by a mile is If You Want Me Now. So I went back to that. I'm not sure, this was out in 2014 or 2016 maybe. I saw them live a couple of times before COVID, and yeah, they were ace. I'd like to see them again, to be honest. But yeah, even on this track, if you want me now, she's some of it's sung in French. This tune's ace. I got this Eye Level. I've never seen this before. I mean, I quite like Eye Level. In the River, which is a single from their second LP, which I don't actually rate. I've never kept hold of it, but it's got this B-side, Strangers, which is a non-album track, and it's really good, and it's probably more in keeping with their debut, really, which I absolutely love. I've shown this before. This is a bit of a britfunk classic, and this is cheap. So yeah, I'm delighted to get that single, because, like I say, that Strangers is great. I mean, this was cheap, obviously. Yeah, De La Soul, 4 new remixes. So this is just exactly what it says it is. So there were 4 singles from their debut, all released in '89, and then they put this out, which was exclusive remixes, I think, to this release of each of the 4 singles. So you got The Magic Number, Say No Go, I Know, Me, Myself and I Know is probably my favourite of those 4. And there's another mix on one of the 12s of that release, which is the Know It All mix that I really like. And this is quite different, but I mean, still recognisably that song. And yeah, this Daisy bass mix is really good. So yeah, I'm pleased to have this. Yeah, pleased to have this. The Blue Nile. I've never seen this before. This is a double pack. 7. So yeah, there's 2 tracks from the debut, Walk Across the Rooftops. So you got Stay and Tinseltown, And then, yeah, there's 2 instrumental tracks as well. So Saddle the Horses is, yeah, nice tune. I think that's an instrumental of one of the songs on the debut, actually. They might both be instrumentals. You got Stay remix, Saddle the Horses, Heatwave instrumental as well, yeah. So, yeah, I'm pleased to get that. And then, yeah, finally, the House Martins. I've had this record a couple of times, but I didn't have a copy. And then I found this when I was in Ireland. It's been sat on the shelf for ages. And then the time was right, and I played it, and this is the copy that I'm keeping. I mean, I like Paul Heaton. I like the House Martins. I like the Beautiful Self. I'm not a super fan. I've seen Paul Heaton and Jackie Abbott once. And it was a pretty amazing gig, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, if you just like 80s pop songs done really well, with a bit of a lyrical edge to them, then, I mean, there's a lot to like on here. Sort of reminds me of my brother, this record as well. This is probably where mine and his musical taste overlaps, and there's not much of an overlap, to be honest. But when I had this back in the day, if he came round here and like people had a few drinks and stuff and music's getting played, the sort of thing he'd be asking for is Caravan of Love and He Ain't Heavy and things like that, when, you know, other people might have been more jumping up and down and bouncing off the walls. But yeah, good times. What song did I put on there? Think for a Minute, I think. Yeah, which is a good one to end on. There you go. Cheers.